And good morning to everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. My name is David Steele, and you've come to the place where I talk about movies, new and old, and it basically nights in a conversation as I turn back the clock and look at some of the greatest movies of all time. So I'd like to welcome everybody back to what I have been calling Marvel March for the past month, and I have been reviewing and going through some of the best Marvel movies of all time. And I started out with Iron Man, went to Infinity War, then I did Endgame to follow that up, just did Civil War. But today we're going to go and even went back and did the Avengers. But today we're going to go back and go a little bit further than that. And actually a little further. So today it was Thor Ragnarok. And I was trying to think of a movie that I really enjoyed. And here's the thing about it, that this movie, truth be told, I was going to do No Way Home. But because Sony is re-releasing all of the Spider-Man movies, okay, starting April 15th. And by the way, guys, I will be doing Spidey streams. So every single Tuesday, come back here. This is going to be the place to be. And even if you've seen the movie, guys, it's still worth going back. And they're releasing all of the Spider-Man movies 1 week at a time. So it starts April 15th and it's going to go all the way until June. And we got a ton of stuff for that. That's going to be where it's going to be at the end of right in the beginning of June. So I figured I want to give you guys something else besides No Way Home. So I really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. I'd seen it before. I've seen all these Marvel movies, good and bad. But this was one I thoroughly enjoyed. And for a number of different reasons, and I'm going to get into that. But as always, guys, I like to talk to you guys about the money it made first and everything else, because we're in a different time right now. Okay, this was 2016, 2017, and this was a different amount of money back then. Okay, so it had a budget. It was, your relative. I'd like to welcome Dadpool, who has been with me for the very beginning of this channel, and I want to thank him and thank you for becoming a member for 9 months. Thank you very much for that, Dadpool. Words can't express to me what you mean. So, and by the way, guys, I am going to talk about channel memberships at the end of the show, so stick around for that. And I have a really some exciting news, and I have a guest that I was just connected with last night and can't wait to get him on the show. Anyways, back to Thor. Here's the thing. This is a different economy back then. So I briefly want to touch upon the money because, let's face it, it's part of the business, right? We always say, oh, well, that movie made this or that movie made that. So let's dive in real quick. So as we go through this, I really wanted to make it a point to touch upon that. Let's get this one up here. And okay, so got the correct one. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, and it made a relatively good amount of money. Okay, so all Marvel films going back all the way to 2008 or right around 2008, 2009 have made $100 million. They've all been front loaded with money. Okay, this was no different. It made $122.5 million, which was fantastic, and ended its worldwide run with a little over $850 million. And you can tell this was a success because the drop between the first and the second week really wasn't that big. And truth be told, there really wasn't that much coming out around that time. Now, about $315 million of that came here in the United States, and that's pretty good, okay, even though almost half of it came to begin with. Now you're asking yourself, where does this rank among the pantheon of all of the Marvel films? And once again, guys, we hadn't had 2018 and beyond. So we're talking about 18, 19, maybe 20, 25 movies at that point. So this is 19th of all of the movies. Okay. And this ranks just below Guardians of the Galaxy, which, by the way, guys, I am going to be doing to finish up Marvel March. So we've got 2 movies left for Marvel March. One of them we have is Guardians of the Galaxy, which I will be touching upon. And I am, as soon as we're done today, when this is exporting, I am going to be sitting down and watching Captain America Winter Soldier, which I think is a perfect movie. Okay. And I want to redo it from Marvel March. And by the way, guys, you can go check out my perfect movie series. And I'm going to leave a little notation up there, right there, so you guys can check that out. Okay. But I think it's a perfect movie. And I talk about, in that video, I talk about why I think the Russos saved the MCU. Okay. So those are the two films we're going to be finishing up with. Now that we all have that out of the way, let's touch upon the film itself, okay? Because this had a stacked cast, guys, okay? Anybody who remembers this had a stacked cast. Of course, we had Anthony Hopkins, who's an Academy Award winner, okay? Recently just won his second Academy Award for The Father a couple of years ago. Whether you like the decision or not, that's something for another time. But he was, even a small little bit he has, he still has gravitas, okay? Of course, we had Tom Hiddleston coming back as Loki, who's just fantastic, okay? Cate Blanchett. Now, once again, here's another Academy Award winner, and she takes on the role of Hela. And it's just unbelievable how she's able to do this. Now, mind you, the very first, and when I talk about in the Winter Soldier thing, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the very first big name Marvel was able to fetch, okay, was all the way back 3 years earlier, okay, in Winter Soldier, in Robert Redford. He was the first guy to really say, I want to do a Marvel movie. And ever since then, we have had big star after big star after big star come in, Academy Award winners wanting to play these roles. Now, some of them, you think, well, it's a comic book movie. True. But some of them will also tell you, hey, listen, I have kids. They wanted me to take this role because, So, okay. Then we had Bruce Banner. So Mark Ruffalo. Okay. And I'm going to talk about here the whole team up aspect here in just a minute. But we had Mark Ruffalo. Okay. Of course, you have your title character in Thor, Chris Hemsworth. Idris Elba makes an appearance, a small appearance, but he's in a couple of scenes, and he did fantastic. Tessa Thompson. Here's an actress, and you got to remember, guys, a couple of years earlier, okay, she did a huge movie, and that just really blew up with Michael B. Jordan, called Creed, okay? So she was really starting to come into her own, too, and now she's one of the most popular actresses in the world. I mean, not only for playing Valkyrie, but, you have other roles, such as Adonis's wife in the Creed franchise and several other things. So she's fantastic, okay? And then I'm going to talk about him in a little bit, but Jeff Goldblum. Just for the uncanny role he had and was able to do everything, for even a small part playing the Grandmaster, funny, and he was your comic relief. Let's face it, he was your comic relief, and it was fantastic. I loved it so much. So I wanted to dive into a couple characters. Now, truth be told, this is a team-up movie, okay? And like I said before, this isn't the Avengers we're talking about here, okay? Let's make that perfectly clear, okay? But it is a team-up movie, okay? And, we'd had one a couple of years earlier in the Avengers, which, by the way, guys, I did for Marvel March. You can go back and check it out right there. I'll leave the link in the right up there for you guys. And so loved when he called Thor Sparkles. Yeah, that was pretty funny. And I'm going to get to the comic relief here in just a minute. You bring up a good point. That all being said, this was kind of a team-up movie, and it had some really cool elements to it, okay? That all being said, okay, I think, so one thing it did really, really well, okay, is in the very beginning, okay, we see kind of a somber, so we see a little bit of a somber type of thing because they are going to find Odin, right? And so that being said, he gets cast out. He gets cast out into exile, or what we think is exile. And that being said, that was really kind of a somber type of sad type of thing when we see him go. And then what they did is immediately they went to comic relief. Okay. So then they go right to New York. Right. And when they're trying to find him, and, they go to Doctor Strange's place. So you had that juxtaposition of sadness and then laughter and everything else. And that was really cool. But so once again, this was really a team up movie. Like I said, not Avengers style, but definitely Avengers like, to the extent it was a team up movie. I had a lot of fun with it. Okay. And, just the chemistry between, Banner and Thor is fantastic. And the other cool thing about this too is we don't see Banner for half the movie, right? This is a kind of a thing where this is more of a tell, not show. Okay. We don't see Banner, or we don't see the Hulk. They always talk about the grand champion. And until the big showdown, which is, the big showdown, okay? And there, by the way, there is no villain here, okay? I'm gonna tell you guys that right now. There is no villain. But, the arena for everybody that will talk about this movie, that is the set piece that everybody's going to remember. And that all being said, the visual effects were fantastic, and I'll talk about the visual effects here in a couple of minutes, but it was just well done, okay? And just how they were able to do this, and because it's quite a long sequence, right? Once he gets in to the arena, we see probably about a 10 or 15 or a 20-minute sequence, maybe it's about 10 minutes, but we see that, and it's like, okay. And it's all visual effects. It's all visual effects. I mean, these are two guys running on a green screen. Yes, they're wearing their costumes, but they're running on a green screen. And then, how that happens, of course, the battle, like I said, that's where the money is, guys. That's where the money is. And I think that this is, just his reaction when he is about, he sees who the grand champion is, okay? And he screams, yes! The comedy here was just so well done. So I really liked that. And then, so you had a couple of other characters that were in here, and I briefly touched upon them. So let's go back to talking to a few of them. Helena, I'm sorry. I mispronounced the name here. So Kate Blanchett's character, okay? And she really did a great job of selling she was an evil, evil princess, or the sister of Thor, who we never even saw for years. So that was something that was really cool. And we also get backstory on her, too. Okay? We all know Thor and Loki and Odin and Asgard, but we don't know what comes before. And she was able to not only be evil about it, okay? Especially, Thor throws the hammer at her, crushes the hammer, that's gone. So that all being said, we got backstory. And that's a really cool thing, because it's really hard to, what am I trying to say? It's hard to have a villain that we've never seen before, okay, come in and go, okay, where's this person from? Because we have to care about the villain just as much as we care about the hero, right? The other comic relief we had in there was Scourge. I thought Karl Urban was awesome. I don't know about you guys, but the fact that he was able to put his comedic face on and just, whether it was when we first see him, or, he's just so funny. But I will say one thing, though. He has the one character arc throughout the whole film. We know what Thor is. We know who Hulk is. We're going to learn a little bit about Valkyrie, and I'll talk about her in a minute. And that all being said, so you always have to have one character arc. Always. In a film. Always. Doesn't matter if it's a supporting character. Doesn't matter if it's a main character. but you always have to have some character arc in there. The character arc here was for Scourge. And that being said, I liked it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was comical at times. And the guns really kind of played a significant role there at the end. And that's really what you want to see. So he, of course, ended up doing the right thing. But as I said, there was another character that really we found out some backstory from, and that was Valkyrie. So when she's on the planet, okay, which, by the way, look at these visual effects, guys. They're incredible. That's all visual effects. Okay. That all being said, we find out something about Valkyrie. We find out why she doesn't want to fight her, because all of her other companions died doing it. Okay. And she's partially afraid of death. I mean, look, that's why she's drinking as much as she is. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? She lost everybody. She lost all of her sisterhood. And they all got killed by her. She was the only one to survive. So when Thor comes back and says, look, I want to go fight this person, and like, yeah, you're out of your mind. But the simple fact we were able to get backstory about her, okay, was incredibly important. And that added a different layer to who not only she was, but who the Guardians were, if you will, right? They had their defenders, and they all got killed by her very quickly, but just so they were trying to stave her off. But yeah, I thought that was really good. So there's one more character here that I want to talk about. Korg, by the way, I thought Korg was fantastic. So he was voiced by Taika Waititi, the director himself. And he did, look, it was a small little part, okay? And, of course, he's directing the movie, right? But that was a fun time, seeing this creature that was made of rock, starting a revolution, right? Very, very funny stuff in that respect. But there's one other character that I want to touch upon, that he was only in the film for maybe, I don't know. I mean, okay, truth be told, he was in the film quite a bit. But I would even consider him to be a supporting character. Okay, he wasn't even the villain. Okay, I wouldn't even call him a proxy because he didn't even answer to her. And that's the Grand Master, right? Jeff Goldblum. Guys, he absolutely killed it here. He really embraced the role and really did great things with it. Whether it was, the glow stick of death, or, hyping up the grand champion, or anything else. And he did such a good job of playing into it and having it be what I want to say, not a comedic role to a certain extent. He was a bad guy, but he was a funny bad guy, if that makes sense, right? Yeah, and the characters here were and that's the thing. That's the cool thing too. You had your bad guys or gals, and Helena and the Grandmaster, but you also had your heroes, and it did a really good job about the character arcs, and I really liked how they did that. One other thing that I just touched upon, and I want to go back to it briefly, was the visual effects. Because the visual effects, guys, this is a very, very visually, the effects for this movie are very heavy. Okay? Like most Thor movies. Okay? I mean, the first one, maybe not so much because they were on Earth a lot and everything else. But this one especially, like this one really, you could tell. And one thing that they did really, really well, because look, if you guys don't have good visual effects, you've lost the person. That's all effects, guys. Look at this. That's incredible. So I mean that's an establishing shot there, but when we see it, it's fantastic. They did such a good job with these visual effects that it made you believe, and that's the important thing. So at that point, when you get somebody to believe and buy into something like that, I mean, here's another shot here. It's just incredible, right? That's all they. I mean, it looks something, and obviously, for those, I'm not that big of a fan of it, but Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's just so well done in so many different ways. I really, the music enhanced. Yes, that's very true. You're right about that. The score was very good. And when you have good things because just like in anything else, a score, okay, and good visual effects complement each other. So when we see the scene, it makes it that much better, okay? Even if the acting isn't that good, to be absolutely honest. But that all being said, this was a really... So, the Tesseract makes an appearance at the end, of course. But like I said, the set piece was the fight between Thor and Hulk. That was definitely the set piece of the whole film, and that's what everybody remembers, right? That's what everybody remembers, is that when they talk about that movie, they don't talk about the villain. They talk about the fight. And this dates, by the way, guys, this dates all the way back. If you really want to go back, this dates all the way back to the Avengers, right? So anybody who's seen the Avengers, okay, obviously, knows that they had that big fight on the Quinjet. And which, by the way, I will get to the Quinjet. There are a couple funny things here at the end. But yeah, I mean, this is a sorry guys, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, no, this goes all the way back to the Avengers and how they were actually first fighting on the Quinjet, and then they had, the punch, once Loki was taken care of and everything else. So speaking of the Quinjet, okay, now let's start to get into some of the funnier things, okay? Because like I said, we talked about the story, we talked about the characters. So now I want to start to get into a couple of the funny aspects of the movie. The Quinjet. So one thing that he did very well, Taika Waititi, is the callbacks. So once again, if you're able to put a callback in, so anybody who's not familiar with it, a callback is something when you put something into a film and then, whether it's 4 or 5 or 6 years later, reference it and go, oh, wow, they actually called it back. So of course, this is the callback in the Avengers after the fight when Tony says, no hard feelings, Point Break, you got a mean swing. So going back when they're trying to escape, he's able to get, voice recognition, Thor, password, so he's like, strongest Avenger, access denied, and then he says a couple, Thor, access denied, Point Break, access granted. But it's just one of those funny little things that, it gets you a chuckle. And it has to be well placed too, guys. Remember, if you do something and it's not the right time, a lot of comedy, guys, okay? A lot of comedy is timing. A lot of it is timing. Because if you overuse something or you don't use something enough, it becomes stale or people forget about it. But if you use it in the right spots, it gets funnier and funnier. And I laughed. I mean, I've seen this movie a couple times, but I still laughed. And that's key. When you've seen a movie before and you're able to go back and watch it again, and laugh at the same scenes, they did their job. So yeah, the Point Break, the whole Quinjet scene was hilarious. That all being said, so we had a couple of interesting little people show up. Okay. So anybody who, I don't know if anybody remembers this or saw this the first time, but in the first act, we have Loki, who's, he's playing Odin, but he's really Loki. And he's got the play going on and everything else. Take a look at who that is, guys. Yes, it's Matt Damon. When you have guys, A-list stars, wanting to play, like I said before, okay, Kate Blanchett, Jeff Goldblum, Matt Damon, I guarantee you, when this came up and he told his kids, they're like, Dad, you've got to do it, even if it's a small part. And I'm sure he had a blast doing it for the one day, for the one shoot. But Matt Damon coming in and playing Loki, I thought that was hilarious. And I thought to myself, I said, is Matt Damon in this movie? And of course, with that particular thing, with the play, of course, he plays Loki and just hams it up hilariously. And then, of course, we had another cameo that he was in pretty much, and he was in pretty much every single film that he was, did until he passed. And I'm talking about Stan Lee. Stan Lee makes an appearance in this film. Okay. So, I mean, when you watch a Marvel movie, forgive me, guys, if anybody knows in the chat or, can comment in the comments below, guys. Let me know which year he passed, because I know he was in Infinity War, but I don't remember what else he was in. I think that might have been his last movie. But anyways, when you have Stan Lee come in and just, he, once again, a small little cameo role, and he plays the barber when he cuts off Thor's hair, comedic side to it, right? And this movie had the right amount of comedy. It had the right amount of tenderness, if you will, okay, in the beginning. It had the right amount of action, okay? And it just had everything. There was a perfect balance. So I always say making a movie is like making a cake, okay? When you make a cake, you have to have the right ingredients, okay? The flours and the eggs and the milk and the sugar and whatever to make the right amount. And you have to bake it the correct amount of time. If you add too much sugar, or you add too much flour, or you don't add enough eggs, it doesn't work. Okay? The cake will be flat, it won't taste good, whatever. This was a good recipe for a good Marvel film. Now, Taika Waititi ended up writing this and directing this. And as I said, it was very successful. It made $850 million. He went on and did another film, okay, Thor: Love and Thunder, which I saw in theaters, which I will not be doing for Marvel March. But not only, it just didn't work. And I think that he got a little too much leeway with the success of this, and he tried to pull some things off in that, and it didn't work. And now, I have not, truth be told, I have not seen Jojo Rabbit. I've heard excellent things about that. And Dadpool says November 2018. Thank you. So Infinity War was probably his last film. Now, truth be told, I have not seen Jojo Rabbit. I've heard very good things about it. But that being said, this was perfect. This was perfect for a Marvel film. And, you talk about Bruce Banner for a minute, okay? Talk about Hulk. You only saw for like the first 20 or 30 minutes, they talk about the quote, grand champion. You don't see him, right? And then when we hear that it's Hulk, he's so exuberant, that it's yes. And so he's always wanted to really fight him, right? He doesn't want to hurt him. I mean, because during the whole thing, he's like, Banner, it's me, Thor. I'm your friend. And that's one of the funny things too is, Tasha makes a very small, thing when he's flying away in the Quinjet and he accidentally turns it on. But nonetheless, one of the things he kept saying was the sun's going down. And that was something that she'd always say to calm him down. And, Thor used it enough. And eventually, but Bruce is like, stop saying that, right? But that all being said, it had the right mixture of everything. It had the right mixture of action. It had just enough somberness, watching, Odin pass. Then it had the comedy. Then it had the funny aspects to it. Okay, whether it was the Grand Master or, the Matt Damon or Stan Lee. So they sprinkled in just enough. Or as Deadpool referenced before, when the Grand Master calls them sparkles. It's just so funny. And this is why it was really a success. And it made as much money as it did. Now, like I said before, this was a different time, right? If a film makes $850 million today, that's a wild success because the economy's changed, right? Back then, $850 million was average or a little above average for them because they really hadn't had a misstep, okay? All of their missteps, all of Marvel's missteps came after 2019 because they didn't know what they were going to do. Because for 11 years, you had over 23 movies, okay? You had all of these films cover time, space. You had a multitude of characters. You had this epic showdown, okay? And you say, well, what's next? We don't know what's next. So when Phase 4 happens, and then you start out with, don't get me wrong, there were some good films in Phase 4. You had Shang-Chi, okay, you had No Way Home, whatever. But after that, it grew stale. And then on top of all of that, you had all these series that you had they were, quote, recommended viewing, my term, okay, recommended viewing, that if you didn't know what was going on in the series, you had no idea. That's what made Marvel so good back in the day. Because you could just walk into a movie and not have any idea and enjoy it. If you didn't watch WandaVision, for example, you had very little idea, okay, unless you knew, hardcore. I mean, hardcore comic fans know this, but unless it's, they don't know what's going on. And that was a major problem moving forward. So yeah, but in any event, I really liked the film. I really enjoyed the film, and I thought it was a funny, action-packed, comedic way of doing things. So that is Thor Ragnarok. So yeah, so that I had a blast with that. So like I said, guys, you guys are going to be getting 2 more. I'm going to try for 2 more for sure. Okay. I'm going to sit down and watch Winter Soldier. If I don't get, you're definitely going to get 1 more. Okay. You're definitely going to get 1 more before the end of the month. Okay. I probably wanted to. So let's do this. Let's call Winter Soldier the last one of the month because I'm off the 31st. And I want you guys, I will sit down and watch this while this exports and uploads today. So if you guys miss the stream, don't worry. You guys will be able to see this later on in a couple hours when it uploads. And I want you to enjoy that. Now, a couple of things. As we wrap up today. So there are a couple of little hints, not hints, but notes and everything else. Okay. for April. So there's a ton of stuff coming out in April, okay, that I want to do for the channel. April 1st, which is in 3 or 4 days. It's a brand new month, which means brand new perfect movie for you guys, and that is going to be The Departed. The 2008 Martin Scorsese film. Speaking of Matt Damon, he's in that film, does a very good job. Packed cast, okay? Mark Wahlberg, Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Sheen, runs the gamut. Jack Nicholson, incredible. That's going to be the perfect movie. Then during the month, you guys are going to be getting films like Draft Day, Nightmare on Elm Street, Collateral, things like that. I am going to be doing Star Trek, the 2009 version, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So before I talk about what I was going to, okay, the surprise, if you will, I want to talk about memberships. Now you go, oh, God, really? He's going to ask me for money? No. Well, yes and no. Okay. Here's the thing, guys. I've made these extremely, extremely, extremely affordable for you guys. Okay. So there are 3 levels. Okay. And thank you very much, Dadpool, for becoming a member for 9 months once again. Okay. That means quite a bit to me. That being said, there are 3 levels. Okay. Moviegoer is $2.99. I mean, you go to Starbucks, guys, you're looking at like almost $3 for a cup of coffee or a specialty drink. Okay. Producer is $6.99. Okay. And then, I mean, if you're in LA, for example, it's $6 a month for 1 gallon of gas. Okay. And then my director version is $9.99. Now here's the thing, $10 a month. Couple of things. Number one, Netflix is raising their prices again. Okay. Again, this is the second time in quite a long time, or a little short of the time, rather. They're raising their prices again. Number 2, and by the way, a lot of their stuff, I mean, unless you're watching Stranger Things or The Crown or, some of these specialty shows, there's really not a lot of stuff on there. It's stuff that you could probably find on Tubi or whatever. Okay, that being said. So Netflix is raising their prices again. HBO Max is $9.99 a month with ads. Now I have that with ads. That being said, guys, you guys are getting all of this content. I mean, without a paywall. Nothing. Okay. Because I watch YouTube too. Okay. I'm a content creator, just like millions of other people, but I also watch YouTube. Okay. And I wouldn't want my favorite content creator putting something behind a paywall. So all of these things are free, whether it is the retrospectives, whether it is the perfect movie series, whether it is Anatomy of a Movie. And by the way, guys, I am working on Anatomy of a Movie. I'm going to be sitting down. I've already recorded it. I've got to record some of the audio and finish that up. The next one I'm going to be doing is going to be on Heat. Okay, I'm going to sit down and break down the coffee shop scene. I think it's one of the top 25 scenes ever put on film. Okay, so you guys are getting Anatomy of a Movie, the retrospectives, the perfect movie, all for free. Okay, unless you become a channel member. Okay, and if you become a channel member, you're helping me out dramatically in a couple ways. Number one, I can get better equipment for the channel. Okay. Number 2, okay, it will. This is a side gig. I've got to go to work in a few hours. Okay, so you could really help me out. Okay, and number 3, I have goals. Okay, one of my goals is that I want to be at the 2,000 sub. I want to have 2,000 subs by the end of the year. Hashtag road to 2,000. Okay. Number 2, my goal is to try to have 15 to 20 paid memberships by the end of the year. Okay. That's my goal. So I'm not just doing this to get your money. Okay. I'm giving you, and by the way, guys, I'm trying to give you a variety of different things. So if you don't like the retrospectives, I do the perfect movies. And by the way, all movies are subjective, and I understand that. If you don't like the perfect movies, I want to break down, some really cool scenes for you in movies and Anatomy of a Movie. Okay. I'm trying to do all this different content. Interviews. Okay. Which leads me into Great content, whether it's new or old movies. The channel provides a detailed review that sums up all the key parts of the film. Hit the sub button, consider becoming a member. Thank you very much, Deadpool. And, that's the thing. So this is the main thing. Okay, this is what I'm going to get at. The first month is completely free, as you can see. Okay, what I want you guys to do, and I'm dead serious about this. Okay, I'm dead serious about this because I don't want to take your money. I want you to join for the first month. It's not going to cost you a dime. I want you to watch the content. Okay, if you don't feel that you're getting your money's worth, even $3, if you don't feel that you're getting your money's worth, I don't want you to stay a member because I don't want to take your money. I only want you to become a member if you feel like I'm giving you quality content. Okay, whether it's whatever I am giving you. Okay, that all being said, okay, and that includes interviews, guys. I mean, I've interviewed Ryan McQuaid, Phil Walsh, all some movie critics, some other people, Chad Holloway. We've got the World Series of Poker coming up. In case anybody who's a poker buff like myself, we sat down and talked for an hour. He's a former bracelet winner. These are the kind of things I want to give you. But that all being said, speaking of interviews, and this is what I was teasing, and I said stay to the end in the tweet. By the way, guys, if you want to follow me, please. That is my Twitter address down there. Want to be Rounder. I am always talking about movies. I'm always in spaces talking about movies. I'm always conducting spaces about movies. Okay. That being said, interviews, they are a part of this channel. Okay. So I said stick around to the end. Okay. So I just touched base with somebody the other night, and he has agreed to come on, and we're going to set up a time. And by the way, if you're watching, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And by the way, guys, I want to know, it's not just me giving you all of this content. I want to give you people, their perspectives, their experiences, what they've gone through in their careers. Okay, this isn't just me doing it. Okay, so anybody who has watched the John Campea show, okay, for years and years and years, okay, and he was on for several years, okay, knows this man, Robert Meyer Burnett. Okay, I always loved his commentary. He had a fantastic perspective on things. He was grounded. He knew what he was talking about. Okay, he never once, ever misled you if you watched his show. And so we touched base last night, and he's agreed to come on. We have not figured out a time. I want to make it as convenient for him as possible because he's doing this for me. Okay, so we're trying to figure it out. And by the way, Robert, if you are watching, thank you very much once again. Much obliged. And all that being said, he's really one of the guys in Hollywood that, his name doesn't get spilled around there, but he's got it near to the ground. And that's the important thing. And of course, he has his channel too, Robservation. Okay. And so I did say I was going to do Star Trek this month, and I do want to do Star Trek. Of course, I'm talking about the 2009 version. What I'd like to do, and we'll see if it works, we don't know because I haven't spoken to him about times and dates and everything else. I'd like to have him watch in Star Trek and bring him back to talk about Star Trek. Okay. Now, it may be a pre-recorded episode, and that's fine, but I would really like to get his thoughts because one thing he loves, I mean, there's two really passionate things in his life he loves. Okay. Going back to this picture. One is hot toys. He loves hot toys. Loves hot toys. Okay. Loves hot toys. Okay. He spent hundreds, and he could probably tell, and I'll ask him, some of the stories that he has about some of the hot toys he has. Right. So that's one thing he loves. The other thing he really passionate, and we'll definitely talk about this too, is Star Trek. He loves Star Trek. I mean, and whether it's TOS, and one of the questions I'm going to ask him is, who's your favorite captain, right? But whether you're talking about TOS, whether you're talking about Next Generation, whether you're talking about Discovery, whether you're talking about Deep Space Nine, whether you're talking about, Picard, whatever. He loves, and I missed a couple, forgive me. He loves Star Trek. And the thing is that if you watch any of his streams, he really brings it out in what he does. His passion you can just feel the passion go through the screen. And these are the kind of guests I want to have brought on. And yes, you are correct. He is also a big, huge physical media guy. You're absolutely right about that, Deadpool. So that being said, I'd like to have him come back and, really do a deep dive into the Star Trek, maybe talk about what was different from the TOS to this and whatever else. So, yeah. So Robert Meyer Burnett has agreed to come on. Once again, we don't know. I will keep you guys updated and in the loop about that, but we don't know when we're going to do it. I definitely like to have him come back for Star Trek, or maybe we'll pre-record it the same day or whatever. But yeah. But guys, these are the things I'm bringing you on this channel. Okay, these are the things I'm bringing you. This is why I'm asking for you guys to support me. Okay, I don't want to take your money unless you feel like you're getting your money's worth. Okay, so that's why it's so important. And I'm trying to, this is a 47-minute video, and I'm going to close it out in a minute or two. But this is what, I'm trying to make these as bite-sized and, consumable as I possibly can for you guys. I know these videos are long. I know that. I know that you guys don't have a lot of time, everything else. My goal is that you sit down and watch some, and then I'm so engaging with either myself or my guest or, my co-host, sometimes that I have on, that you want to come back. And you want to come back again and again and again. So, yeah. I mean, that's and like I said, guys, April is going to be packed. Not to mention, guys, not only am I going to be doing the Spidey streams every Tuesday, on the 10th of April, I'm going to go see The Dark Knight. And I'm going to have Phil Walsh back. Okay. And by the way, hello, Phil, if you're watching. So he's going to come back on the show. He loves Batman. He loves The Dark Knight. Okay. So I'm going to have him back. Okay. These are the kind of things I'm bringing you on the channel, guys. So that is the thing. Not to mention, we've got Civil War coming out, the A24 film. Okay. So much stuff coming up on the channel, guys. So if you do nothing else, here's my one ask. If you want to become a member, thank you very much. But if you just want to watch the content, I only ask you please, please, please hit that like and subscribe button. Because what that does is two things. Number one, it tells me you enjoy the content. And number two, leave a comment down below and it will get it out to other people. Okay? That is what it's going to do. And I want as many eyeballs on these videos as possible. I'm trying to grow this channel as much as possible. I am trying to figure out how to get the store back up and running, because I want you guys to be able, if you want to go buy a mug or a t-shirt or a couple other things, I want you to be able to do that too. So, okay, guys, that's going to do it for today. The next time you will see me is on the 31st in a couple days. And the last movie of the month is going to be Captain America Winter Soldier. So that's going to fill out the month of March. On April 1st, I'm going to talk to you guys about The Departed. Okay. And then I already sat down and watched Batman, but I think I'm going to sit down and watch something else. So I want to put those two videos very close to one another. So I'm going to sit down and watch another movie. And you guys are going to be getting another retrospective. So, like I said, stay tuned. There's a lot of stuff coming up. Okay, guys. that's going to do it for me for today. Once again, everybody that came in to the stream, thank you for coming in. I hope you had a great time. So there are 3 things every day I tell everybody to do. Number 1 is be safe. Number 2 is be careful. And number 3, have a great rest of the day, guys, and be kind to one another. Okay, guys, I will see you guys in a couple of days. Take care of yourself. I'm David Steele. This has been Realcast, Real Talks, and I'll see you later, guys. Bye-bye.